Pretty little flower, won't you sit back down and go play nice? So keep talking, keep laughing. One day you wish you had it. Other people on fire, fire. Maybe it's time they meet their dragon. If you're gonna hold me down, you're not gonna let me into your castle walls. None of you can keep them. 'Cause if I gotta
Good afternoon, good evening, or whenever you happen to be listening. Welcome to League to the Max, or whatever. Hi, I am your faithful, disembodied voice and producer, Dr. Manhattan. Now, with me here, as always, leading you through the ups, the downs, the man with the hopium and copium himself, Mr. Bryan Espinoza. Bryan, got a special little treat for you today. Did you know we may have acquired a new sponsor? Big things are coming for the show as we get towards the semifinals.
Sponsor, you say? All right, let's take a look.
Yes, let's. Well, what do I have right here? Let's see what this is.
Absolutely is. Let's take this moment now and check in on the Verizon 5G All Chat. Bryan Espinoza. Let's go C9. The faithful shall be rewarded. C9 fans since 2015, Genji is going home with the quarterfinals consolation prizes today. Absolute confidence, Mr. Espinoza. I respect that. But that said, right now, they're going to need to find a way out of this hole before they win.
Well,
I'll take tweets that did not age well for 2,000, please, viewer.
Yeah, welcome to the quarterfinals recap of League to the Max or whatever, sponsored by Rice-A-Roni, or the San Francisco treat.
Yes, as I as I definitely tweeted out not too long ago before we went on the air here. I will let me go grab that tweet so we can get that on screen here. Yeah, that tweet did not age very well at all. I do not need your hate mail that says that I jinxed the series. It is not a fake tweet. You can direct the hate mail to s.garmer@gmail.com. Do not direct it to me or my Twitter.
So you asked me about if I cursed C9, yet you don't want people going to at the Andesian on Twitter and referencing and quote tweeting this particular tweet. Okay, I see how it is. I got you.
The on-air tweet did not feature or did not age well. Looks like C9 took home the year's supply of Rice-A-Roni and the Sunshine Hydrox cookie consolation prizes. Hopefully they don't have to declare them at customs when they arrive back in LA.
I mean, if they have them at the duty-free shop, it's, could make things easier.
But yeah, no, that was... I don't know how I want to put that series, honestly. And you know what? I'm gonna... I hate this. What I've said about this, I've kind of already more or less put into tweets, right? Like I'm kind of cycling the whole thing out of my system.
Even with something like this is what we could have been witness to, Bryan.
Yes, that's what could have been. We could have seen Fudge just the whole earth, man, the whole earth. But what I will say is, I'll say exactly what I tweeted. I'm saddened by today's result because I was prepared for if C9 lost, right? I knew that and it wasn't even in the back of my mind. It was a legitimate possibility, right? We talked about this. We've talked about this all week, really. We talked about this last week, right? Like it was I was prepared for if C9 lost. I mean, I knew it was going to be a close series. Well, at least I thought it was going to be a close series, but this wasn't close, and that's what bugs me, right? Like, this should have been 5 games. It should have been a really intense, bloody, 5-game series. But I don't know what happened, but C9 hard choked, right? Actually, no, I'll tell you exactly what happened. It was we had the keys to the series yesterday, sponsored by W2M Network. Um, what happened is exactly what I said was going to happen in yesterday's keys to the series, right? I said that these teams both have to sit there and they have to understand when to make the plays, right? Like, you cannot hesitate on these plays. You can't make the wrong plays, right? And that's exactly what happened today. We had the wrong plays come out. We had hesitation on both sides. I mean, for crying out loud, there was what was that, game 2, I think, where Cloud9 is up 5,000 gold and they'd refuse to actually try to fight over a dragon. You have a 5,000 gold lead. Why are you hesitating so badly? Like so much. I understand. Yes, you need to whatchamacallit. You need to respect your opponent, sure. And there were definitely some moments in all 3 of those games where both of the opponents were respecting each other, right? But there's respect and then there's hesitation and underconfidence, right? And I think we crossed the respect line on both sides from both teams and went into the in unconfident hesitation line. And that's what the problem was, I think, for Cloud9 at the end of the day, right? Like, okay, so we fucked up the early game a bit, right? Like, game 1, it wasn't great. Game 2, we're not going to talk about the early game in game 2, right? Like, it was just, that was the Klid show in game 2, not to be confused with something else you might be thinking of there, buddy. And I see he has no comment. Excellent. But yeah, no, game 3, we finally figured out the early game, right? But we made leads. Like, I was live tweeting. I'm like, God, I would love to see the gold graphs, the gold charts on some of these games, because it's just, one moment there's somebody's got a 4K gold lead, the next moment the enemy team has got a 2K gold lead, right? Like
First of all,
the leads swung so wildly.
First of all, sometimes these gold leads are as volatile as a crypto market. You know that. Second of all, I wasn't going to comment anyways. I was going to let you sit there, but conveniently, the universe granted my wish and I had to have a phone call real quick. So it was very, very good timing either way.
Well, the plain and simple of it is C9 got stomped, right? It wasn't the stomp that anybody would like. It wasn't a stomp, right? I don't want to call it a stomp because it didn't feel like a stomp. But at the same time, Cloud9 did not play at the right times and make the right plays and make the right engages when it mattered, right? And I talked about this yesterday. I said, both of these teams have to recognize when to make the right plays and when to make and when to go for objectives and all that. And it's apparently nobody listened to me. So
well, I mean, when you have a tense environment, a lot of things going on, especially with quarterfinals, this is where NA teams usually go ahead and they hit that wall. Now, that's not necessarily your fault. I thought you had some very good keys to the series with the fantastic sponsor of W2M Network, but again, when you're on the bright lights, you're on the stage, sometimes these things happen.
Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, I don't. There's very little hype left in this tournament now after this, right? Like everybody, you would sit there and think, okay, C9 wins. Man, we've got a really fucking hyped semifinals, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
got C9 EDG and you've got T1 Damwon Kia. This is going to be like the hypest semifinals ever in the history of worlds, right? Now we're at the most boring semifinals finals in the history of worlds. At least that's my opinion, right? Like I'll put it in the same words that Sven put on the in the press conference today. 17 out of 20 players remaining in this tournament are Korean.
Well, I mean, even with that, there's still that little bit of intrigue to see if we hit the first ever perfect run. But I think once that ends, then that's the last bit of any sort of hyper drama that you've got.
Well, the last little bit of hyper. See, the problem is, and we talked about this at the very start of quarterfinals, right? Like when the
Mm-hmm.
when the quarterfinals draw happened, is the problem ended up being, and I even tweeted, I replied to a couple of tweets about mentioning this. In fact, I have one tweet that still won't stop pinging me notifications every 5 minutes with people liking it. Where I pretty much said, these, you know, T1 and Dam1 are the two strongest teams in this tournament now, right? Like that semifinal is the de facto finals for this tournament. Like it doesn't matter who gets to finals. Whoever wins T1 DK wins the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's really no other way to put that. Like if that finals, if it's EDG, maybe you get a 3-1 final, but regardless of who's on the other side of EDG, but if Gen G somehow miraculously make it to finals, which I doubt, right? I think EDG dismantle them as fast as they dismantled Cloud9 today. I mean, Gen G can have their moment of celebration, but their run's done anyways, right? Like Gen G played sloppily. They've looked sloppy through this whole tournament. At the end of the day, it was who pulled the trigger on the gun first, and that was Gen G, right? And or it was either who pulled the trigger first or who had more rounds in their magazine, right? There were a couple of these compositions, a couple of these fights where Gen G managed to just outlast Cloud9, right? Like they kept finding more rounds in the magazine to fire at Cloud9 when Cloud9 just, burst emptied the clip and that was it. But I think that if Gen G go to finals, I don't care who's on the other side of Gen G. It's over, right? Congratulations to Gen G. You made it to finals, but it's over. If you're EDG and you make it to finals, congratulations, your org made history, you made it to finals. Maybe you take one game off of T1 if it's T1, which is really what I'm expecting, right? At this point, because I've been saying it the whole time. I wanted T1 C9. Obviously, C9 went home. I'm kind of looking for T1 EDG now, right? If it's T1 EDG, I think T1 EDG gives the best storyline and the best series, right? Because I think EDG, maybe they take one game off, but I don't think that I don't think anybody on that weak side of the bracket can do anything against the T1 Damwon powerhouse, right? And that's another problem, right? I think Riot seriously has to look at this tournament and say, okay, between all of the problems with play-ins, between the chaos that happened in group stage, between the frankly utterly unentertaining games we had, or at least a series overall, excuse me, in the quarterfinals, we got to change the format of this tournament.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
listening.
I'm not sure what format you go to. There's plenty of formats out there, but at the very least, I mean, hell, look at TI, right? Look at the international, right? You had Team Secret, was it? I think. I don't follow Dota. I'm sorry. This is not a Dota podcast. But I'm gonna look it up real quick, right? Because I this was all over my Twitter, and if it hits my Twitter and I don't know shit about Dota, you know it had to be huge, right? Um, who the hell won this damn thing? Team Spirit, that's what it was. Not Team Secret. Team Secret was in the tournament, but wrong name. Right. So Team Spirit went through a losers bracket, right? Like, and still managed to like upset and come back and win the whole freaking thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me sit there and think, okay, so if we maybe we put in a losers bracket next year and Cloud9 gets to have some vengeance, right? Because there's quite a few of these series. Hell, even the Mad Lions series, right? That one looked pretty. There were a couple of pretty close games in that series. I don't think you change the best of 3 format or the best of 5 format, right? Like you don't change it. You don't change it to like best of 5 because that's just too long, right? Because then you get a what is it possible 8 games, 9 games, something like that.
Wait, so let me follow this. So, just for the knockout stage, you would implement a loser's bracket, so make it double elimination in essence. Or
Effectively,
well, not even quite double elimination per se. Think for those of you who watch college baseball, think the college baseball World Series, which you have double elimination up to a point, but the last two standing, they face off in a best of 3 championship series. So you'd have a double elimination to the last two teams, have that loser's bracket, but would you still keep best of 5 series? Because now you're talking a lot of extra series there, or a lot of extra games. Because I honestly think if you have a loser's bracket, best of 3 wouldn't be too bad.
and that's what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking you have to change something, right? Like there has to be. You can't just have one like 3-0 sweep and with some very close games in the middle, and that's it. You lucked out. Have a nice day, right? Like I'm looking at the. I'm looking here. I'll send you this, and maybe you can make a little bit more sense of it than I can. But
Sure.
this was the bracket for TI this year, right?
All right.
Team Spirit got knocked out really early, like super early, right? And they went into a losers bracket and they fought pretty freaking hard through a losers bracket. In order to including making a comeback victory and beating the same team that knocked them out to that losers bracket in the first place in order to go on to win
All
the
right.
international.
Okay, I'm going to put this on screen. So, how this worked. I see what they did. I see what they did. So, how they did it was, as you see here, you have your 18 teams, and it was a single round robin, ties being allowed. So, it looks like both teams played 2 game sets, If you each won one, it was counted as a tie in the overall standings. Now, that said, your top 4 in each group went on to the upper bracket. 5 through 8 in each group went on to the lower bracket. Now, for the upper bracket, it looked like it was a straight best of 3 knockout. Winners move on. For the lower bracket, your lower bracket winners faced off against teams that were eliminated in the upper bracket. So if you were knocked out in, say, the quarterfinals of the upper bracket, you moved down to the second round of the lower bracket. And then if you were knocked out in the semifinals of the upper bracket, you moved on to the fourth round of the lower bracket. So every single time you moved on, whenever you were knocked out, okay, that's where you went in that particular stage of the lower bracket. Then your upper bracket winner, your lower bracket winner met in a best of 5 grand final.
Yeah, and as you can see, Team Spirit were in the upper bracket, got knocked out, and made a hell of a run through. At least, just looking at the brackets there, made a hell of a run through that lower bracket, all the way up, and took the grand final. And I would love to see something like that out of the. I would love to see something similar to this implemented in League, right? Like, maybe we do this instead of the whole round robin group stage thing, and like double round robin group stage and then single elimination whatchamacallit, single elimination bracket stage, right? Like, why don't we just go to best of 3 the whole way through, and like you do a maybe you do one single round robin to seed the brackets, right? And then once you have the bracket seeded, go from there.
Now, when you say like with the one round robin to seed the brackets,
I don't know how they got to this seeding, right? I don't know how these brackets, like what determined the standings for these brackets to be populated, right? Maybe Dota uses maybe it's one international region and people can play each other from all over the world, right?
Yeah, because
like Riot has regions, right?
Yeah, well, because how they do it here, you have 12 teams go through the pro circuit, and then 6 teams, you have your regional qualifiers. That gets your field of 18. Then they go ahead and they seed their groups. So you could still go ahead and have your play-ins, that's fine. And just with those play-ins, you can seed it, and where it's 16 teams, you have, instead of the 2 groups of 9, 2 groups of 8, and you can do it similarly. And then with the group stage, from there, all right, you have your top 4, they move on. And then your 5 through 8, they move on to the lower bracket. Or if you wanted to get rid of the play-ins completely, have all 24 teams, you could do feasibly 4 groups of 6. Have your round robin just start from there. The top 2 in each group go to the upper bracket. 3rd and 4th go to the lower bracket. 5th and 6th are eliminated. So you could do something like that instead.
Sorry, I'm reading through how they formatted this. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going over there, kind of spitballing some ideas. But I honestly think that way, since instead of having two group stages, you could go ahead and have it as just one.
Yeah, because it looks like they bring 18 teams,
Mm-hmm.
and out of those 18 teams, 16 of them play in the main event.
Yes, the top four in each group go to the upper bracket.
Yeah, no, I see that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe you copy this format. I don't know, right? Like I think something has to change. I am not the expert to sit here and say what,
Well,
right?
again,
But
did you
the
catch? Did you manage to catch the idea that I was throwing out while you were reading and looking up
probably,
everything?
I'll be honest with you, I heard what you were saying, but it wasn't processing because I was trying to.
All right. So in the normal league worlds, you have 24 teams.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
You combine, you get rid of the play-ins altogether. They're gone.
Good,
You
because
have
I've never liked the play-ins. I wish they never added the play-in format.
you have one big group stage, four groups of 6.
Okay.
You can do your round robin however you want to do it in your group stage. The top 2 in each group, that's your 8 teams, they go to the upper bracket. Third and fourth place go into the lower bracket. Fifth and sixth place, rice-a-roni and Hydrox cookies. You're done.
Contestants not appearing on stage will receive a white sewing machine and a spice rack from McCormick Shilling. And a delicious bucket of juicy, delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, delicious, juicy, bite after bite Kentucky Fried Chicken. We do chicken right. I'm sorry, did I revert into my game show announcer mode there?
Yes, you did. Hopefully, since we've got some good things going on with YouTube, these people will be listening and you may get some very interesting commercials in these videos. You're welcome in advance.
Fried chicken.
But
Oh,
I mean,
sorry, this is not the a Drew show. This is not a Drew Carey Price is Right showcase. Sorry. Very infamous one, I might add. Anyways, enough about game shows for today. For now, right? Like that's Thursday. Um, again, I that could work. Um, I think it's better than what they have now, right? Like the teams have more chances to there's more. I think there's more games played, right? Like
mm-hmm.
because honestly, I would love to see them just do like, especially in the brackets phase, like a best of three, and
Yeah.
then like maybe quarterfinals onward, you turn it into a best of five.
Because, I mean, even here at the International, for the entirety of the upper bracket, it's a best of 3.
Yeah.
For the lower bracket, it's just a knockout, one and done. Then you get to best of 3s. And then they save the best of 5 for the grand final. I mean,
Now the problem I think that you have with that though, right, is if you make it best of threes to the entirety of worlds, right? You give a severely marked advantage to Eastern teams because most of the Eastern leagues play on best of three formats, right? So North America, because apparently the one season they did it, LCS looked at some numbers and probably got yelled at by sponsors. Um, and apparently it harms viewership to do best of threes.
well, You could either go full Dota and make the group stage a best of two, or you could still have your double
Oh
round
God, no,
robin.
no, nobody. The league does not do best of two.
Well, so then you
That
could go
won't work.
ahead and you can go ahead and have your double round robin with best of ones in the groups.
That could work.
Because, I mean, especially if you're starting it right away and you're eliminating the play in round, you have an extra week. So you can add in more round robin days. Hmm. So,
I don't know.
again, just throwing out ideas on my end.
Oh yeah, no, it's all ideas, right? I mean, we'll have to see next year if Riot actually does anything. Um, apparently, I got to fly in here. We'll have to see if Riot does anything, if they change the format. I know a lot of folks are not happy with the groups format. A lot of folks aren't happy with the quarterfinal or with the knockout format. I know changes had to be made because of two Vietnamese seeds not making it. But I don't know if that's enough of a like. I don't know if that's the reason why the format sucks, right? Like play-ins. I'll be honest with you. I know Riot made a joke about it, right? It was in bad taste, sure, that they don't support the Fiesta that is play-ins, right? With the whole Pick'ems thing, flashback to the very beginning of the tournament. Um, I don't mean any offense to any of the play-in regions when I say this, but a lot of those games weren't really very entertaining to watch, right? Like some of those regions, you have to congratulate them. You give them the respect that they deserve, and the due congratulations that they're entitled to for making it to the world stage. But you put them up against certain teams, or in some cases, any team, and they just look absolutely horrible, right? And it doesn't make for very entertaining league. And I think at the end of the day, yes, it's competitive, but at the same time, it's also supposed to be entertaining, right? Like Riot does want the viewership, right? And when you have stuff like, when you have teams that are going 0 and 6 in play-ins and 0 and 6 in groups, I'm not going to yell at Fnatic, right? I can't fault Fnatic. Fnatic had problems beyond their control, but there are other teams that had equally dismal records. I don't want to, I'm not going to, out of respect, I'm not going to call people out, right? But there were other teams that had equally dismal records. And I don't think that, yes, those teams should have a shot at international competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Riot has to do two things, right? One, we need more than just two international tournaments a year, right? Riot needs to release the chokehold on organized professional tournament play and give us more than just MSI and Worlds, right? Like maybe we work in a break somewhere in the spring or summer or both splits for there to be like maybe 1 weekend, like 1 week international tournament, right?
Uh, maybe. I mean, you could do it to where you have, instead of like half a year, MSI and then Worlds, you could have it like, say, what, every 4 months?
Yeah, like quarterly worlds, like international tournaments, right? And then you have the big one as world, like you have worlds as in the world championship in, the winter time, right? Like
Right.
this time of year. Or hell, maybe you do 3 of them a year because the players do deserve off time, right? Like, we give them October, November, December for off time. We'll let them have that, right? Or
Why I
at least the
say,
ones that are, or at least the ones that are not at, the ones that aren't at Worlds.
and that's why I say three in a year would work. You don't want it to be on that, and every 4 months you have your lead up and say first international tournament, lead up second international tournament, lead up worlds, done.
Yeah. And then the other thing as well is I have to. Mithy was asked, or there was a question asked of Cloud9 earlier today in their press conference, and Mithy, which is their coach, chimed in to answer. Um, and he made a very valid point about how if Western teams want to get better, they need to be able to play against international teams, right? Like the best we can do is play against EU teams, maybe um like the one time like you used to hear, unfortunately with the pandemic you really haven't heard about it because it's not been possible to do, but you hear about Western teams going over to Korea and doing boot camps, right? Like the Korean boot camp. We haven't had that in 2 years because of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Eastern teams, realistically speaking, they can change regions freely, right? Like the ping
Right.
difference is not so astronomically high that it's difficult for them to play, right? Like, Korea could probably play on China at like maybe 80 ping or something, right? Like these are guesstimates. I don't know the actual ping numbers, but League on 80 ping is not the end of the world, right?
We
Like,
do with all of this and kind of adding to this, we have a comment here on Twitch. Should the women fairly be paid more than the men to compensate for how much more men have made in the past?
well, of course, but I counter that point with what women do we have on teams right now, right? Like, okay, we have had women on teams in the past, and that did not end well. We'll go to We'll mention NA Renegades and leave it at that. Um, I don't think payment, especially like gender based payment, is an issue in league, right? If anything, the money problem that we have in league is North America thinks that they can get better by spending more money, and that's not the problem. Like that, and that's not the solution either.
No, you can't, and we've shown in many different levels, you can't buy championships
You
everywhere.
can't,
You
and
can't.
and North America, like league, is no exception, right? Like, okay, now we're up to the $3 million marker on big name contracts, like perks, for example. What do we do next year? Go to 4 million and hope that changes something? Like, that's not gonna change anything, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. Do I think everybody in do I think people deserve to be paid fairly? Yes. Do I think people are being paid fairly? Yes, because we now have a lot of the casters have band together because that was a big thing a few years back where casters were being underpaid. That became a big thing. A lot of them fought for pay equality. They got that. Um, I know some of the big name female personalities like Shocks, like Laura. They haven't really complained or had to make mention of anything regarding equal pay and everything, and all of those folks are friends with each other, right? Like they talk. I'm pretty sure each one of them knows how much the other's getting paid. On top of that, everybody in league now has an agent, right? Like that's a thing. Like we have agents in league, so these agents are definitely making sure um how much, like they're making sure that people are getting paid fairly. As a matter of, should women get paid more than men to make up for inequality in the past? I don't think that's a thing. I don't need that. I don't think that needs to be a thing. I mean, I'm hearing background noise. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Someone else TV changed a little bit, but it's nothing. Is it anything too bad?
No, there was a couple. I don't know. I heard something and it threw me off my train of thought there.
Okay.
Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, no. I don't think we need to raise, salaries or anything like that to make up for inequality in the past. League has had a pretty not so great history. I think we moved past that. There's no need to drag that up and you know ponder on it or dig up bad memories, so to speak. Like let sleeping dogs lie, I believe is the adage we're looking for here. Um, but like I said, you can't buy the championship, right? And that's what North America thinks that they can do. Like that's what a lot of these big name orgs are trying to do is okay, we got the sponsorship money, we're gonna promise you that we get to worlds and we're gonna get out of groups, we're gonna get to quarters, whatever. But that isn't how this works, right? Like it doesn't matter who you bring in, as clearly evidenced by today's series. Like Perks has never like I got some statistics here we can pull up, right? Like give me a second here and I will copy the tweet here and we can get this on screen, right? Perks has 8 LE, like career wise, right? Perks has 8 LEC titles. He has an MSI title and he's been to semifinals and worlds 3 times, right? Like the man is very distinguished, right? That didn't mean shit today. Like he didn't make it out of quarters, right? It doesn't matter, what they've done before. It's, what are you doing today? And it doesn't matter how much they paid Perks to come over here and try to, carry Cloud9, right? It's the fact of the matter is simple. He didn't do it. EDG have pretty much been shut out by Perks every time they've come across him. Or not EDG, sorry, Genji have been shut out by Perks every time they've come across him at Worlds, right? Well, guess what they did today? They shut out Perks. So I don't think I think it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with player talent, right? And part of it is the experience that these players are getting, right? Overall, North American players are not playing the same amount of games as Korean teams and as Chinese teams are playing. So they're not getting as much experience on the stage in competitive professional meta gameplay than these Western counterparts are. And I think the way to fix that, honestly, is just like we have a universal rule set for worlds that all teams, regardless of what region you come from, have to abide by. I think, excuse me. I think we need a universal rule set and a universal format for all regions, right? Because right now, the way that the regional tournaments go is they're organized. Yes, they're organized by Riot overall, sure, right? And I'll put that in air quotes. And if you're watching us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you can see me actually doing the air quotes. They're organized by Riot overall, sure, but in reality, they're done by regions, right? They're like we have Riot Games, which is Global Riot, handles North America. There's like Riot Russia does the LCL, I believe it is. Riot Japan handles the LJL. I'll be honest with you, I don't know who's doing Riot Korea anymore. That's changed. That's changed a couple of times, right? Like,
And honestly, 2 points in all of this bit. Number one, I'm definitely with you, especially in the fact that if you have more experience, you're looking at film, you're getting scrimmages, you're in more tournaments. If you come up against a bogey team or a bogey player, you're eventually going to go ahead, do enough background research on them so when the time comes, you can take them down. And as far as a universal rule set, I'm surprised that something like this hasn't happened already. Because, yeah, for the regional leagues, okay, let the leagues, as the regions, establish the tournament format however they want to do it. That's fine. But when it comes to how you play in that tournament, yeah, universal rules would be fantastic. Level the playing field, at least in that sense.
so LCK is actually being organized by Riot now. But the LPL, which is China, is actually being ran by Tencent, which is technically the owner of Riot, but generally speaking, that means Riot has nothing to do with it, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I have to sit there and say, yes, you need a universal tournament format. You need a universal, and by tournament format, I mean like, the spring split, the summer split. Like, you need you need a uniform or universal professional play format, right? If one region's playing a best of three, honestly, all of them need to play a best of three. Otherwise, you need to play a best of one, a best of two, a best of five, whatever you want to do. Every region should be playing that exact same format, because if not, somebody has an advantage over somebody else, right? Because especially in games like, I mean, really, it's in any sport, period, right? The more experience you have, the more practice you have, the better likelihood you are to beat your opponent, right?
Of course.
Because you have more time invested, you've put more time into getting that muscle memory, or you've run into a situation where if you didn't have the extra experience, you may not have already seen that kind of problem before and know how to play against it, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you so far. I'm with you.
that's where I'm at there at the end of the day. So I agree completely with Mithy there, and I think you have to take it. One, you have to get everybody on a universal format, right? And that includes China, right? If China doesn't want to get on board, then you tell China that they're not allowed to participate in international tournaments. Is it harsh? Yes, 100%. It's harsh. Is it fair? Also, yes. Because if they don't want to play by the rules that everybody else has set and has managed to agree to, then why should they have their own rule set that, benefits them more than everybody else and be allowed to participate, right? That's just fairness.
And I honestly think even in a situation like that, if you have everybody else get on board, you're either going to A, come to some sort of compromise to where everybody else will still agree, or B, as you said, they're just not involved whatsoever. They move on. And then if it gets to that point, then I really think that they would eventually concede and say, all right, fine, we'll go ahead and play international tournaments by these rules.
Oh, of course they concede, because you sit there and it's like, what do those Chinese players have to play for if they're not allowed to go to worlds or international tournaments, right? Like, what's the point of the LPL at that point, right?
And
Yeah, sure. The
especially
players will sit there. Yeah, sure. The players will sit there. They'll play their games. They'll get their paycheck. But if they don't want to play, by the rules, okay, Tencent is running the LPL, so it's not like, I don't know. I'd be willing to hedge a bet that Riot may pay Tencent money to run that league. And if Tencent doesn't cooperate, maybe Riot pulls that financial support as well. So maybe the teams start getting a lesser paycheck, or the league gets the production in the league goes down, which means less fans, less sponsorship opportunities, so on and so forth. Like there's definitely consequences you can think about there if the LPL decides that they don't want to play ball with an international format, right?
Importantly, and this would be, you could say, on the extreme end, but possible, especially since we've mentioned other regions. You have a lot of other regions look at the top LPL talent and say, hey, do you want to go ahead play in a region where you can go to Worlds? You can go to more international tournaments, you know? And when you wouldn't even say, okay, we'll offer you this bigger contract or what have you, it's like, hey, we can give you the same money or we can make tweaks or what have you. You can make more anyways.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, right? There is the global contract database, right? And that is used by everybody. So LPL is already on board with one thing that's universal, right? So I don't know. That's I think, like I said, I think you have to make the capability for everybody to be on the same page both easier and universal, right? That's the first start
Absolutely.
as far as closing the gap goes. Because as much as I hate to say it, we can import as much talent as we want and as we like. I would put money. I would put actual money, like not even like no bet on Bovada meme or anything, right? Like full stop, serious talk for a moment, right? I would put down money, vital parts of my anatomy, whatever. You could bring Faker to North America, put him on a North American team, right? Because we've already seen that he can carry a team of rookies, right? You could bring Faker to North America and he would not be able to carry a team in an international tournament.
No. That parts of your anatomy aside, that raised an eyebrow, but overall, I do get it.
Well, I mean, I say that to drive home the severity of the length I'm willing to go to make my point proven on that.
You know what? Nope, not today. Not today. Not today. Not today.
You could bring Faker to North America, and North America still won't win Worlds. I don't think North America would even get to the finals. Maybe you put him, maybe you send Perks back to ADC and you put Faker on that team, but then you run into communication problems, right? Like everybody's got to communicate with each other. That you got language issues now, right? Like that aside, there's a good amount of Korean players here in North America. Let's say we get a super roster going between Korean players that or at least Korean speaking players that have American or that have NA residency status as far as Riot's concerned. Um you got your import rules and all that. But let's say we can manage to get a good team, right? A good team built around Faker, or at least a decent team built around Faker that can all communicate with each other, right? I don't think it happens because it's North America can't keep up with the Eastern meta because they can't see the Eastern meta because it's so difficult for them to play on Eastern servers because of ping. Hell, it's difficult for NA to play on their own damn server because the ping from LA to Chicago.
And that's something that could. I want to try to phrase this the right way. That is something that requires some sort of serious infrastructure investment. As I mean, we talk about everything here, and for example, soccer. We have soccer to the max coming on later tonight, on Monday night. We talk about with the North and Central American region. We don't have video review in our qualifying matches. And they say, oh, because the different stadium you play in Central America, you don't have the investment to be able to get the technology and have it up to FIFA standards. That's fine. But what I am saying is, that's something that needs to be done. If NA, and when it comes to servers and that much of a ping is that far behind other big regions in the world, similar investment and infrastructure changes need to be made. Otherwise, this is going to be the ceiling that NA teams are going to be at, and eventually that ceiling is going to get lower and lower and lower. If other countries keep going past, they keep developing better servers, be able to get better ping, bandwidth, etc., etc.
Oh yeah, like I said, that is definitely an issue. Is the only way for Western teams to get a, I don't want to say decent. That's not really the word I'm looking for. To get a learning experience to get an experience that is conducive to learning, right? They have to go physically boot camp in Korea. And I don't think they should have to do that.
I mean, wouldn't it be easier to save the travel and everything else from having to go and take everyone to boot camp in Korea instead of saying, hey, make that similar level of investment on North American servers and everything so you have your boot camps here? To me, that seems like a much better trade off.
I don't know. I think that the problem becomes like physical geography, right? Like the Asian region, everybody is geographically speaking, they're pretty damn close to each other, right? So the ping differences are not like North America is a huge country, right? But when you look at damn flies, um, when you look at the geographic proximity of China and Japan to Korea and vice versa, everybody's pretty relatively close to each other. Yeah, sure, it's probably going to be slightly higher ping, but it's not unplayable ping, right? Like if
But I mean,
like
even because I mean, and I get that, but granted, geographically, the US is bigger than Korea, Japan, fine. But China, you're still dealing with a big country. And how far apart are they spread apart in Russia? Because that's huge. If everybody's clustered together in Russia, all right, that's one thing. And you would have
well
to look at some.
generally pro teams are pretty much clustered into whatever city it is and it's usually a major one. Like North American teams, for example, are all clustered around Los Angeles, right? Like Korean teams are all clustered around Busan, I think it is. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm horrible with the international geography here. But I know generally speaking, a lot of the professional teams, their gaming houses, their practice facilities, in the case of orgs like North America, um, that's the big thing now is we don't do team houses anymore. We have practice facilities. Um, they're all like generally in the same small major city geographic area, right? Like, yeah, North America,
Right.
it's a region, but you don't have like, Cloud9 isn't based out of, Orlando, for example. And then you got another team that's based out of Atlanta. And then you got another team that's based out of, Nashville. You got another team based out of Salt Lake City. You got another team based out of New York City. Like they're not completely scattered all over the country because they are all required to play in-person studio games, and the studio for North America is at Riot's LCS studio, which is right across the street from their headquarters in Los Angeles. So all of the teams live close to the studio, right? Because otherwise the travel costs, week in, week out, become astronomical for those teams to get past. As my camera is just doing some dumb stuff right now. I'm not even doing anything, and the focus is going wacko. But that's part of the problem, right? The Western teams don't ever close the gap because they're not being given the tools to. And I don't think anybody's talking about that, right?
Yeah, this is something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Like, I'm glad Mithy said something during the press conference today, and I'm really hoping that these journalist orgs, news orgs, take it and run with it, like I am, like we are. But I mean, cycling back around though, did that factor into the loss today? I think it is. I think it does. At the end of the day, when you have less practice, and you have less experience overall, especially against, Eastern teams, yeah, I think it affects you. What do I think was the downfall of Cloud9 overall today? When they got their leads, they didn't know how to play with them. I think Gen G was in the same boat, honestly. Both of these teams got leads and they didn't know how to play with them. And when they finally figured out how to play with them, it was either too late and they lost the lead, or in some miracle fashion, they took Baron at the right time and they got the right team fight, and the only natural play was go end the game. But as much as I hate to say it, the most entertaining the most entertaining quarterfinal that we had this week was EDG RNG. And that was not the one that I thought it was going to be.
I mean,
Because it wasn't a 3 hour, 3-0 stomp. And that's part of and that, kind of circles back to what I was saying earlier, is why this tournament needs a format change. Because when you literally have nothing, when you have 75% of your bracket stage so far has been 3-0 stomps, right? And you're running, 3.5 hour broadcast days, 3 hour broadcast days. Where's the entertainment value in that, right? Like,
and especially when you were mentioning viewerships and everything else.
Why do you want to watch that, right? Especially if the matchups themselves are not really matchups that people are interested in seeing, right? Like, EDG RNG was the best matchup I think we had in quarterfinals, and was probably also the matchup that people were least invested in as far as, like, hyped storylines and stuff. We're gonna go to I found a website earlier today through Twitter called Esports Charts, right? We're gonna look at some information here. The top 5 most popular matches by peak viewership, right? Damn One Kia versus Mad Lions is at the top of this list with nearly 2.3 million viewers. And that's across all viewership platforms, all languages, right? Like all, not just Twitch. It's also
Right.
Facebook. It's also like
The total aggregate.
yeah, the total aggregate, right? The second most watched game, right? Group stage day 1. T1 versus DFM. 2.23 million.
Wow.
T1 versus Hanwha Life quarterfinals. 2.2 million. Fnatic versus Hanwha Life, right? That the must-win game for them after they had already upset RNG and, you know, oh my god, Fnatic's on the miracle run. Everybody started tuning in, right? 2.02 million. Today's match was number 5, 1.96 million.
I mean, that's to me a little bit worrying because usually for a typical tournament or a typical event, as everything progresses, yeah, you're going to have people who tail off when they're not invested, their player, their team eliminated, what have you. But you expect viewership in general to increase. You're getting into the meat and potatoes and you're getting to where the best of the best of the best of the best. Yeah, if I'm looking at this from Riot's perspective, I'm like, okay, this isn't working. And I look over historical data going back even just a couple of years, including, like, say, 2018, 2019, and say, all right, we do indeed need to fix this. Because you can't just have that sort of a drop off from the very beginning of groups all the way to quarterfinals, that lull, and then pick everything back up.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm trying to get some more data out of this website here.
You do have a hardcore reading face right now.
Sorry. This happens sometimes, especially when I get invested in data. I like data. I like math that's already done for me.
You make sure to emphasize it's already done for you.
Yes, I do emphasize that a lot. You're not wrong. All right. Let me. Please don't make me have to pay money for this data. I don't like having to pay money for data. All right. Yep. This is okay. Maybe not the best website in the world. Yeah, they've definitely paywalled a lot of this content, but but yeah, no, there's. I think we see viewership actually fall off from here in this tournament, as much as I hate to say it, right? Because you had a possibility for two hyped storylines, right? Like Cloud9 versus Edward Gaming. These are both two teams that have never been to the finals before. Edward Gaming's never been to the semifinals before. Cloud9 only ever did it one other time in 2018. Both, both of these teams are very capable. Like, it's an even matchup. Both of the teams are capable of going on to the finals. And then you have T1 Damwon, which is Faker versus Showmaker, right? Like, semis could have been really freaking hyped, right? Now, really, the only hype left in this tournament is Damwon versus T1. And like I said on Twitter earlier, that's the de facto finals.
And I'm honestly telling you now, aggregate viewership is probably going to be maybe 1/8 for that match. But
Oh no. That's going to be the highest viewership you'll see for the whole tournament. I would even bet. I would even be willing to bet that the viewership for that semifinal is going to be higher than the finals. Unless they announce something huge for the finals opening ceremony show, which Riot has been really hush about so far. I think that series actually beats out the finals, right? Like the only way I think viewership trumps that is if it's T1 that wins and T1 is going to look at the final, like, have a shot to win the championship, right? If it's if it's Dam One versus anyone else, viewership's tanked because everybody knows, oh, Dam One's playing, they won. Congratulations, Dam One.
here's the rub on why I put that figure so low. The reason why I put that figure low, and I completely agree that the semifinals are going to trump the final. I don't disagree with that, but you had mentioned the intrigue and you had mentioned this. But if you think about it, the minute Damwon drops a game, that's your one big storyline just done. The unbeaten run will be over. Yes, you will still have your people stick around to see, okay, T1 got a game off them. Can they go ahead and they win the series? But if it's
And I think I have to respectfully disagree on that one. I think it's backwards, right? I think Dam One dropped a game and suddenly everybody tunes in because it's, oh shit, Dam One dropped a game to T1. Like, you go back and look at LCK, Dam One scrubbed, I don't want to say scrubbed the floor, but Dam One were pretty dominant over T1 domestically during the season, right? So if you turn around, Faker's got his Worlds buff. Faker's he's like, hey, I'm at Worlds. I'm the unkillable Demon King, baby. Like, I'm here to carry. I want my ring. I want my cup. I want my Mercedes. I'm going home. And I think as soon as Dam One lose a game, I think, okay, sure, you lose that storyline of, undefeated team at Worlds 15-0, they win the cup. Okay, sure. That storyline's out the window, but you still have the storyline of Faker versus Showmaker. You still have the storyline of, can T1 take down the most dominant Korean team that we have seen in recent years, right? Does T1, a three-time, they have their own legacy, three-time world champions, do they have what it takes to go for 4? Do they take down the defending champions? Like, those storylines are still there.
all
And
right, I can see those.
as soon as that first game drops, I think you see viewership spike up instantaneously. Because everybody that was all of the Dam One fans that were sitting there like, oh, okay, it's just T1, 3-0, 3-1, no worries, right? And most of them are probably going to be 3-0, right? They're going to start tuning in. Okay, they dropped the game. All right, maybe this is going to be an interesting series. It'll be 3-1, but no, I think that's, if you're right, you've got to figure out a way to milk this semifinal for everything it's got. Because that's where I think this is your last bastion of hype in this tournament.
Personally, I can tell you Riot's dream scenario right now. Damwon starts out 2-0. T1 then wins game 3. If it doesn't play out exactly like that, it's not entirely going to be the same. But if you want, at your peak, all these things, everybody frantic, going to their screens, tuning in for whatever reason, that's how it has to start. Damwon 2-0, right on the precipice, and then all of a sudden T1 wins game 3.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even if T1 comes right out the gate and wins game 1.
Oh, it's a fluke. No big deal.
Exactly.
Reverse sweep time. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
No, I concede you that point. You're 100% right there. No, if you have Dam One show up in 2-0 so far, like 2-0 into the beginning of the split or the series over T1, and even better if Faker looks weak the whole time, right? Like they target ban the hell out of Faker, they dump every single last bit of resources they have into keeping Faker shut down, right? It looks even better when T1 wins game 3 and start the reverse sweep. Hell, if we go to a game 5, do you want to? I don't even want to think about what the aggregate viewership numbers are going to look like. I'd say easily they beat the peak viewership record of 2,293,000 viewers, which was actually today.
3 mil.
I say
I put on it. 3 mil if that happens.
Easily 2.75. I'll say 2.7. 2.7, maybe 3. Maybe 3.
I mean, with something like this, with everything that you were just to mention, and you know how Twitter is, you've seen your timeline, you've been a part of it. It starts going viral there. I don't think 3 mil is out of the question at all. If that happens.
Oh no, the Korean viewership is going to skyrocket for sure on that one. But yeah, no, I think that, like I said, if you're Riot, you're looking for, this is your last bastion of viewership in this tournament. Yeah, the finals are known to bring in the most viewership for the whole tournament, right? But realistically, as always, I think this is going to be a boring final. The only way this isn't a boring final is if it's, if T1 get out, right? Like I said, if T1 beat Dam 1, they win the tournament. But if we get a T1 EDG final, I don't think it's as boring as people think it's going to be. It's definitely not going to be a 3-0 stomp, right? But we have next weekend to worry about. Our plans for the week while we're waiting for semis is we got 4 teams left in this tournament, right? We've got Gen G, Edward Gaming, T1, and Dam 1, right? So we're gonna be doing a deep dive into all 4 of these teams, talking about their history, talking about their domestic runs, and we're gonna be doing that on special episodes for the next few days, so that we have some content going out while we're waiting. And I'm not going stir crazy playing Earth like, oh my god, the freaking semifinals need to be here already, because that definitely happened for quarters.
I mean, there's also other deep dives that you have to think about that will be happening in the meantime, and other scandals, because we didn't even talk about this bit of scandal that happened as the quarterfinals were wrapping up.
Oh no, there's definitely scandal already. There's questions about Perk staying in NA already after he decided to abruptly leave the Cloud9 press conference this afternoon. But more so, if you have been on Twitter like I have, there was some interesting there's an interesting series of tweets yesterday made by Mad Lions, right? One of the co-owners for Mad Lions went on record saying that he thought that the AD carry Karzi was absolute trash and didn't deserve. Well, I'm not quoting verbatim here, right? But basically, the sentiment was he thought that Karzi was trash, didn't deserve the starting lineup spot, and if it were up to him, he would have gave the spot to somebody else, right? The Karzi's contract expires on November 15th, contract day, right? Like free agent day, right? Like he's a free agent this year. So I'll pull up a tweet that Cadril threw out there last night, right? Be a team owner. Flame your ADC publicly who you're possibly negotiating with for contracts extensions and worked all year long to get where he is. Say you'd submit another AD, but it's a shame that you don't say these things. Delete tweet. Followed by clown emoji.
That's just pretty much speaks for itself right there.
Yeah. And oh, hey, you know what? There's a nice EU team looking for an AD carry right now by the name of G2 Esports. Would not surprise me in the slightest if Carzy gets, we see G2 Carzy coming up for spring. I'm just saying, after the whole reckless shit that happened with G2. But yeah, that's a mess.
Season content.
That's a mess right now, right? Like, you've put in and you have a crazy run through, LEC, through Worlds, and the same fucking day, just hours after you get eliminated from Worlds, and you got to be feeling, even if you don't want to admit to it, because Carzy's got a hell of a mental, right? Like even if he doesn't want to admit to it, you got to be feeling pretty shitty, right? And your owner goes on Twitter and starts flaming the shit out of you. Like, if I'm Carzy, I got my money. I'm running to another team. I'm not staying on a team where my owner thinks I'm crap and would rather have me sitting on the bench, right? So that I think is going to develop a little bit more in the next week or two here. I want to say that oh, okay, we do have an update here. Mad Lions actually did release a tweet here. Oh, okay. So looks like this is actually the plot thickens, right? Here's a we got a official tweet from Mad Lions here. So it turns out this guy that's talking trash actually isn't an owner or part of the ownership team. He's just effectively an angel investor. And apparently he's misrepresenting himself in his bio. Like his Twitter bio.
Yeah, this is going to be some intrigue.
But apparently he is just a content creator. He is not part of ownership or management, and he doesn't speak for Mad Lions. And apparently he isn't dropping. He hasn't exited contract negotiations. So we got another. Here's a tweet. A kind of a response. A better response tweet, not treat. From Carzy as well, right? Like, this kid has got some fucking resilient fucking mental, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but even if you're Brazilian, when you've got all your mentals, no matter what, you're going to go ahead and use this. And I mean, as you said yourself, we're about 3 weeks out from contract day. Isn't this the absolute worst timing to have some sort of a shitstorm?
Oh yeah. And what happens every year? We have this is what, the third player related shitstorm I think I want to count so far. We're due for at least 2 more before contract day. 100%. We get at least about 3 to 5 of these a year right at the end of October. And well, where are we? We're at the end of October. So yeah, no, I think we're gonna see a couple more of these I don't want to call them shitstorms, but definitely high profile player situations and roster situations before the 15th.
Like I said, at
It's
least
like
we won't. At least we
it's like
won't.
Riot did one thing right, I guess you could say. They're like, here you go, Bryan, happy birthday. We're gonna put contract day right next to your birthday. Because it's always middle of November, right? And like there's been days where it's been on my birthday. And it's like, happy birthday to me. Okay, for my birthday, I want this player to go here.
I mean, at this point, you maybe can your wish.
But I mean, looking forward, like I said, looking forward to semifinals. In a little bit of a little bringing it back to making it getting it a little bit more serious here. Let's talk predictions, right? We went 3 for 4 in the group stage here. We'll take a look at
Mr. One-Off
pick'ems.
struck again.
Yeah,
Especially
Mr.
when I
One-Off.
thought you didn't, or you
Yeah,
wouldn't.
One-Off struck again. Unfortunately, I one-offed on the wrong team, which so that's like the story of this tournament is just one off, right? So I don't know how, like, Riot has already calculated the points on pick'ems and it says I'm at 38 points, right? I don't know how accurate the leaderboard is, right? But right now, and I'm gonna check this tomorrow because I expect this to be updated tomorrow and it actually be correct. Like it could be wrong right now. There's still one unlucky sumbitch that has just whiffed on every possible thing you could whiff on, right? And has no points at all whatsoever.
I mean, statistically, that just takes as much luck and talent and effort to get them all wrong as to get them all right.
Yeah. Apparently our 6 people that at least for right now, again, I'm gonna check this tomorrow and I'll see if I'm still right. And see if this is still right. But our 6 people that are in the running for the grand prize with the perfect pick'ems, there are 6 of them still. Nobody. I guess they all were not Cloud9 fans. They were not on the Hopium and the Copium. And they all went for Gen G. Somehow I find that difficult to believe. I think that number has to drop by like 1 or 2, right? Like I just, with all the hype and all of everybody saying Cloud9 was going to win that series, I that's why I don't think that 6 is correct, right? Again, I could be wrong. I'll check it tomorrow when we do tomorrow's episode. We'll go from there. There are 12 people that have 79 points, which effectively means they've only missed one pick somewhere. Whether it's a quarterfinals pick worth 5 points or they missed 5 points somewhere in this entire thing, which is pretty damned impossible to do, right? Like that's basically you've gotten everything right except for one or one quarterfinal pick, right? And we did the math, and it's about 7 million people participating, give or take. So, like I said, we'll check these numbers again tomorrow and see if they've updated. Because I still don't think they're 100% accurate. So, but talking predictions, I'm going to make this quick. Edward Gaming Gen G, I give it to Edward Gaming. I think it's going to be a 3-1 series. I think Gen G maybe cheese enough of an early game out of Gen G in one game, and that's about it. T1 Dam 1 Kia, we've talked enough about that. We're going to talk even more about that this coming week. I give it to T1 in a 3-2, right? I think Dam 1, just like you said earlier, starts off with a clean first 2 games. Faker downloads, comes online, and that's all she wrote, right? And that's what I got for predictions. How do you want to do scheduling for this week's shows? I think we can take a moment to talk about that because we got 4 teams to cover. We got 4 days, right? We've got the next games start. I'm going to pull up the official schedule here. Saturday. So we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do an episode a day for each team. So what teams do you want to do on what days? Because I'm good for whatever, right? Like I think maybe we can do one quarterfinal Tuesday, Wednesday, or one semi Tuesday, Wednesday, one semi Thursday, Friday. If you are curious, the first semifinal that they are doing is going to be Dam 1 T1 on Saturday. So they did schedule it. They did schedule it how I predicted they were going to schedule it back at the at the quarterfinals or the group's review show. They did put the Korean powerhouses on Saturday, and they're putting Gen G EDG on Halloween.
Of course they did. Well, you were at least right about that. So, I mean, I figure, like how you have it lined up, we tackle those 2 first, get the hype out of the way, do the breakdowns and the big lead up to that match, and then our other 2 quarterfinalists right after that. Or semifinalists, I mean.
Okay, so do you want to do, how about this? We'll do Dam 1 tomorrow. We'll do T1 on Wednesday. We'll do Gen G on Thursday. We'll wrap on, Gen G Wednesday. We'll wrap Thursday with EDG.
Sounds good.
All right, so there you go, folks. That's the schedule. Times will be announced on Twitter. I don't know what our scheduling is going to be quite yet, but if you want to go ahead and take it away, I need to step away for a moment. So if you want to end the show for me, I would appreciate it.
Alrighty, well, again, you have been listening to Leagues to the Max or whatever. For Bryan Espinoza, you can find him on Twitter at the Andesian. And for those of you listening, first of all, for those of you watching, Facebook, W2M Network, thank you. Twitch.tv, W2MNet, for those who commented, thank you. Twitter.com, at W2M Network, thank you. And since this is a review show, YouTube.com/W2M Network. Thank you very much. This will be up there on short order. And if you happen to be of the oral variety in the audio version, that's absolutely okay. Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, Castbox, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Apple Pods, Google Pods, Spotify. If you have it on your podcast feed, we are most likely on it. Check out W2M Network, a variety of shows, sports, entertainment, Rattlich and Broadcasting, music, movies, Soccer to the Max, The Kickoff, Life is Like a Game show. We've got a whole plethora for your enjoyment. So for then, I'm on Twitter at SquidSportsHead. We will catch you for our deep dives as we go ahead towards the semifinals. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. See you next time. We're out.